Well, today on Nova Legends podcast, I got Ratcliff Thomas. Ratcliff is one of the best two-sport athletes in the history of Northern Virginia. Just incredible point guard, shooting guard in basketball, strong, great pull-up jumper, great defender, great competitor, and of course was a great linebacker and running back for the Alexandria Titans. Had a great career at University of Maryland in the mid-'90s. I believe 97 grad, Ratcliff, from University of Maryland.
97, yep.
97, and then went to played in the NFL for 3 years with the Indianapolis Colts and Jim Mora, and now is doing some exciting things. He's coached some, but now doing some exciting nonprofit things for young aspiring football players as well. So welcome, Ratcliff.
How you doing? I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you're having me on. I watch a lot of your podcasts, a lot of good information, a lot of old guys coming on. Some of the guys I competed against, some of the guys I just watched and admired from over the years. And the group that you have, the legends of Northern Virginia legends, man, it's awesome, man. It brings back a lot of memories that we can share.
Well, thanks for saying that. It's the great athletes, not like me because I wasn't great, but it's great athletes like you and Darryl and the great coaches like Red Jenkins, and they're the ones that make the group because our group is actually made up of the players that form the tradition. But I wanted to start by getting your thoughts on the Super Bowl this week. What'd you think about the game? It was an unbelievable postseason. I think football has had some problems over the last several years of all the issues they had off the field as well as on the field. But it sounded like it was a great season this year.
Yeah, it was a great year. I was sort of surprised by Cincinnati being in it. They did really well, but I actually picked the Rams before the playoffs started. My thought process was if Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Little, if that pass rush gets hot, they're going to disrupt everything anybody's doing. So it pretty much worked out like that. And, I'm happy for Matthew Stafford getting this first one. Cooper Kupp had a great year. So the Super Bowl was exciting. It was very entertaining. And it capped off a real good year.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to your NFL career, but when you watch a game like that, does it make you wish you had a chance to play in the Super Bowl and and to run out of the locker rooms into the field into that huge crowd?
I mean, you always miss the camaraderie of being with the fellas. Do I miss the game itself? Well, the game was tough, especially the professional game. What a lot of people don't know, it's very taxing and tolling on your body. So I do not miss that train wreck every single Sunday. I don't. But yeah, definitely being around the guys, being in the locker room, that was the best part of it. The team aspect, yeah, I missed that part.
I can only imagine what you went through. So I played football up until my junior year, and I'm still traumatized by some of the hits I took in Little League. I remember in November when it started to get cold, you would take a helmet. I was a running back. You take a helmet to the arm and you run back to the huddle. And I mean, you're in so much pain and you just got to sit there. You can't even concentrate, try to listen to the next play. And I could only imagine what football would be like at that's like 10 levels higher than I ever played at.
Yeah. I mean, I know I have, a lot of people watch the game and they Monday morning quarterback and they talk about the players or that guy sucks or that guy. I'm looking like, look, bro, nobody on that field, nobody was even considered to be on that field is a bad player. They're all state, probably dual sport athletes, probably the best, ever been in their state and in college. So it takes a very unique individual to make it at a professional level in any sport. And I must respect to anybody who has. Yeah.
And one thing I learned from Willie Pyle on our podcast is how much under a microscope everything you guys do is. I mean, everything you do is analyzed. You make a mistake, you hear about it. There's no doubt about it. It's unbelievable. Not only the physical pressure your body's under, but the kind of mental pressure you're under as well.
Yeah. So the one thing people, you don't understand is that football itself, it's a mental game. And the higher you get up and the level you get up, it becomes more mental. When you're young, you just sort of run around and play football and have a good time. But guess what? As you get into high school, in the college, and especially on the professional level, it's very technical. So if you can't think the game, I don't care what kind of athlete you are. If you don't know where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and what technique to use, you're done. And you see guys like Cooper Kupp is an excellent example of a guy that knows how to play the game the right way. Of course he's fast. Of course he's quick, but he's not the fastest or the quickest. But guess what? He's open every single play.
Mm.
Right? So it's a mental game, and playing with a guy like Peyton, I know we'll get into that later. Like being around a person like that, that really shows how important the mental side of the game is, how he can move defenses with his eyes, how he knows where everybody's going to be on the field. It's amazing.
Yeah, I remember you were quite an athletic specimen in high school. You were extremely well put together, fast, great athlete. But at the NFL, everybody's a Ratcliff Thomas. So, at the end, it comes down to the head. It comes down to the head.
Man, absolutely, man. I remember real quick one time, my punter, his name was Hunter Smith. He was all-state quarterback, whatever. I forgot what state he was from. And he was fast, right? And you knew he was an athlete, but you never really get to see it because all he did was punting and kicking. So we was playing against the Cowboys, right? We punt the ball down, and Dion is back there to receive the punt. So I remember that game because I had a cast on my hand, some injury. But I'm the first one down, right? I'm like, I'm going to, I'm on TV. I'm going to make a big hit on Dion. So he give me the shake. He's gone. He gives me the shake. And he's running up the sideline, and it's Dion. He's a little older, but it's still Dion, fast Dion. Here comes our punter out of nowhere to run Dion down.
Wow.
And I just was like, wow, that's amazing. So, like, everyone's a great athlete.
Everyone's great athlete, yeah. Well, let's go back to where it started. Alexandria City has an amazing sports history. Football, basketball, but many other sports as well. And I've talked to a lot of great athletes from Alexandria. Are you from an Alexandria family, or did you guys move there when you were young?
Yeah. So I actually moved to Alexandria when I was 1 year old. I was born in North Carolina, but as far as I know, I'm from North Carolina because from Alexandria. I moved to Old Town when I was 1.
Okay.
So yep.
And one thing I've also learned about Alexandria. Oh, first of all, did your parents play sports? Were they athletic?
Oh, absolutely. My dad was an all-state running back in North Carolina, and then did some college. So he was a little short guy. So, but but he was an all-state running back, and he always bragged about his career, and his friends that I talked to always talked about how athletic he was, how athletic he was. I don't think my mom played anything. She just has athletic built. She don't play anything.
Right. Yeah. How about siblings? Do you have siblings that played?
Nah. I had two sisters. They didn't do many sports. Maybe cheerleading. No sports. Yeah.
So one thing I've also learned is in Alexandria, your sports is tied to the nearby rec centers. So a lot of times you'll play football and basketball, baseball, I guess, as well, with the nearest rec center. So did you play? I guess is it Houston down there? I forgot the one that's down in Old Town.
So I was in Old Town. So I was in Charles Houston.
Okay.
It was my recreation center. So it was like the thing was back then, it was a little different from now. The competition within the city was crazy. You had Delray with Mount Vernon and Court Kelly. You have the West Side with Ramsey and Charles Bird. You had South Side with Lee Rep. So you had like little facets of the city that all competed against each other coming up. So that's what people don't understand. And what happened when we go to middle school, went to GW and Hammond, it was like bringing all-star teams together. So that's why back then they were so dominant. So then you take the two middle schools and put them two schools together, then you make TC or Alexandria City School. So that's why they back then TC Williams was ahead of the curve when it came to sports and athletics.
So what sport did you gravitate towards first?
I didn't. That was the issue. I played both. When I was young, I tried soccer, I tried baseball, I tried everything, but I just gravitated towards football and basketball. It was just always loved playing. I played it in the neighborhood, played it growing up, and I've been playing this since day one.
So let's go with basketball first. Who were influences? Like who'd you try to play like when you were a kid? Oh, it could be NBA players, could be local players. Who'd you try to play like?
Man, like everybody else play like Mike, right? everybody wanted to be like Mike. I remember wearing 23 and having the wristband and the knee brace as a as a youth and as a middle schooler, and I think I kept 22 in high school. That was the closest. I don't think we had 23, but like everybody wanted to be like Mike. It wasn't even close. It was like it was a lot of good players, but Mike was the guy that everyone wanted to imitate and stick your tongue out and glide in the air and all those things. So yeah.
Did you have any memorable coaches that you later on you still think about some of the things they taught you?
We said coaches, memorable coaches. Man, I had a long list of coaches, man, that helped me along the way, and that's why, I'm so passionate and adamant about giving back about coaching. From my first coach, my dad, to all the way through. I had a bunch in rec league and youth league. Michael Evans, Bootsy, House. There's so many people I can name all the way through high school. But Glenn Furman and Jim Worden. I think Jim's maybe a part of the group. Jim Worden was my basketball coach, and all the way through college and professionals. There's a lot of men that stepped up and showed me how to be a man and showed me that, how important a coach is in a young man's life. Like they become, at that time during the sport, they become your secondary parent. Because actually, you probably spend more time with your coach during the football season or basketball season you do with your parent.
Yeah.
And actually one-on-one interaction during the seasons. So if you were with that coach 3 or 4 years, they become a significant part of who you are and scoping you to who you become.
Well, how about football? How'd you get started? What positions did you play? Who were some of your role models? Who'd you try to play like? Who were some of your coaches?
Starting off young, I automatically started off at running back and linebacker. Just playing at Charles Houston Recreation Center. We had a lot of great athletes. So my first year I played up. Like I was a bigger kid, so I played up. So my very first year of football is funny. I think I might have played linebacker and offensive lineman, right? And we had an undefeated season. I don't remember the season. I remember the ball snapping and me just looking around. That's like right? So it was like, then when I came up my next year, it was almost like you were in line for greatness. It was a system set up. GW middle school, that was like, I know it used to be a high school that went back to a middle school. So at GW, I remember back then it was 7th, 8th, 9th. So we played sports in our 8th and 9th grade year. So it's not like these days. I can remember like how we just dominated. Like that might have been maybe my freshman year might have been the most dominant year of sports that I was a part of. We maybe in 2 years we might lost one. Yeah, 2 years we lost one in football and we lost one in basketball in 2 years. And I think in basketball, my very first game as an 8th grader, we lost to Robinson. I forgot the guy's name. It was one good kid. I forgot his name. If I said it, you'll know it because you'll connect with Robinson. But we lost to Robinson, and then we didn't lose. We won a championship, 8th grade year championship, 9th grade year, and very dominant. So that was a big part of my memory of my 8th and 9th grade at middle school, and then going into TC Williams. I know like these days you get an opportunity to go to different schools, different private schools to get recruited and stuff like that. And I did. I got recruited by some private schools, St. Stephen's, Gonzaga, maybe some schools called and inquired about me coming over. But guess what? Back then, it wasn't even an option. It wasn't an option. I remember like thinking, if I played for TC Williams back then, I was a professional. It was that important. It was that important that I didn't dream of going to the NFL. I dreamed of playing for TC Williams. That's how big of a deal it was, And they talk about Titan pride. I know if you ever interview anybody else that went to TC Williams, now Alexandria City, they talk about Titan pride.
Yeah.
And it was, when I say it was instilled in us, it was instilled in us, and the competitive nature of it is off the charts. So that's what I remember. Like I remember times that we practiced harder against each other than the game was.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. So by the time we got to the game, it was easy. It was easier, not easy, no disrespect to any opponent. It was easier because the guys that I'm going against every day in practice were like that didn't start for us. They would be starters for any other school.
Mm-hmm.
So just great memories, man. Just great memories of Alexandria and of the Northern Virginia and competing against, phenomenal athletes, man. I just remember like you talked about the Greg Williams, which I spoke to the other day to talk to Greg, the Darryl Franklins, and then and football, you just great, just so many great players, great players. What Darryl and Greg, I remember, and you coached it, our All-Star team that we had at St. Stephen's. So the Northern Virginia was so talented. It's like, okay, I'm on the All-Star team. These two other great players, I got to prove that I'm great too, right? So we played against the other side, but we were competing against each other. And that's the drive and the push and the friendship and the bond that we gained over the years. And me and Greg, over the years, we stayed in touch. We have just having such a mutual respect. Talk about our games that we had. We had some all-out wars in basketball, man. When I say, oh, man, Greg, and then you had the mastermind, Red Jenkins, behind them. I felt like, I remember one time, and I didn't even understand it back then. We were playing, and I was having a good game. Man, they took me completely. They ran a box and won. I'm like, what the hell is going on? They took me completely. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. They came back and won the game. So, it's just a lot of great, fun memories, man.
Yeah. So for folks who don't remember, Greg Williams was played 4 years at University of Florida, had a great career down there. Darryl Franklin, who played for Chantilly, went to American and had a really solid career at American. I would think that Greg would be an easier matchup for you because he's very similar to you. You guys are both very strong. You're very strong 1-2. Darryl's different than you guys. He's more of a scat guy. He's going to run around real fast, run around a bunch of screens. Who was a tougher matchup for you?
I'm gonna say Greg, man, because I know Darryl was great. Don't get me wrong, but I'm gonna say Greg because Greg basketball IQ, like stuff that we didn't even think about back then. His IQ, he knew how to get anywhere he wanted to on the floor to get his shot. And we was just running around playing and being great athletes, but he was a great athlete with the basketball IQ. So, and so I'm gonna say, and I will say he did more with less. I'll admit it. Like I had other great players on my team, more athletic. He did great with less. He they were ranked top in the region every probably all 4 years that he played. And you know what I mean? So yeah, I'll say Greg.
Who are your teammates at TC? I can't remember exactly who you played with.
You said basketball-wise?
Basketball.
Okay, so I had Larry Harris. He was my center, my big guy. I had Keelan Golden. He was like a power forward. That's towards my senior year. Like I played like my sophomore year. I played on the team with Keith Burns.
Yeah,
Keith Burns and Willie Whitley. And so, I was a young guy playing with those older guys. So my the dynamics changed. It went from I was coming in as a support type guy my sophomore year to my junior year, sort of like the lead role. So yeah, a lot of great players.
So what was Jim Worden was your coach? He had taken over from another Alexandria legend, Mike Hines. What was Jim Worden's coaching style like?
Coach Worden was he was a get the ball up the court. He was a press the opponent, put pressure on him, and then Jim Worden's style was complemented by Doc Hines. Doc Hines was our assistant coach, so their styles were. Coach Worden, he'll scream about the game, but he's not a scream at you guy. That was for Doc. So they played that good cop, bad cop role great. I just remember we would get to a certain point in the game, and coach will come over. Coach will give us a play. We got to get it done. We got to get it done before I walk on the court. Coach Hines will grab me and look at me like, yeah, it's time. Get it done. It's not no, get it done, right? So it was great. It was great. It was just Coach Warden's birthday the other day. Happy birthday again, Coach Warden. I inboxed him, talked with him. He was very supportive. Always there for whatever you needed. He was a mentor. He was a father figure. He was a great guy. He was a great guy.
Well, I seem to remember it was South Lakes, and I think maybe Chantilly had seemed to go to states every year in region. Who knocked you guys out of the regional tournaments those years? Do you have any recollection of those big games?
Absolutely. I remember like yesterday. It just seemed like every year, we had a good team every single year. We was win our district, go to the regionals, but it seemed like every single year we ran into like probably whatever team was about to win state. So Joey B and the South Lakes knocked us out twice.
Were those good games?
Oh, absolutely. They were wars, but here's the thing. They had Joey was 6'11", then they had like 6'8", 6'6". You know what I mean? They had a Division I professional lineup. So I mean, we just didn't have enough. First year, I think it was funny. It was the football guys knocked us out our first year. My sophomore year, it was Stewart,
Charlie Garner,
and Darryl. Yeah, Darryl White, but phenomenal too, right? They knocked us out, and I think my last year, I think it might have been Darryl. It might have been Chantilly. It might have been so every time we got put out, and we probably could have went further, should have went further, but we lost to some great teams. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times whatever team comes from this region, go to state, they win. Yeah. They win. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to football. I believe you played for Glenn Furman, who had been there a while. I talked to some TC guys last couple weeks ago from the class of '84. Glenn Williams and Larry Bryant, Sean McNeil, and Brent Lowry, your fellow University of Maryland alum, and they seem to imply that Furman was not an easy guy to play for.
I think Coach Furman was a guy. He was a no nonsense guy. Get it done, right? He especially when he seen greatness in you, he expected it. He didn't expect anything less. He didn't let you take it easy, take a game off, take an opponent lightly. He prepared in such a way that that we're going to play from start to finish. He was a great coach. He was a great coach, and he had a great supporting cast. Coach Yost, may rest in peace. Coach Yost came back. He was our special team coach. Coach Shaw was our defensive coordinator. Coach Allen, Bill Allen. I think he came back and coached for a while at TC. So great coaching staff that demanded excellence. They knew what excellence looked like. So Coach Futrell, let me not forget Coach Futrell. I think he might even be in the group. He's a running backs coach, offensive guy. So they demanded excellence from us. And it was good for me because I was a very competitive guy, and they just made that competitive edge come to light more. So
when did you know that your future was on defense and not offense? Because I mean you were all region on both sides of the ball. I think even all met. So when did you begin to realize, well, you know what, I should focus on defense?
So offense or defense, football to basketball, I had to make a lot of decisions, right? But it came down to when I ended up going to Hargrave, and they pretty much they asked me, they like, what do you want to play? I'm thinking to myself, they have in their mind what they want me to play. Like, no, what do you want to play? Right. So being a young guy back then and not even thinking it through, I was like, well, I'd rather hit people than be hit. So I just took off a linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
That simple. Yeah.
Well, how did your high school team do? I know you were rated highly, maybe even nationally one year. How'd your high school team do?
So sophomore year, we lost in like maybe the first round of the regionals. Coming back our junior year, that was a year we was nationally ranked. Was actually ranked my junior and senior year, but we were ranked. We got all the way up to 8th or 6th. We went undefeated the whole season, the whole entire season, and the regional finals against Annandale, we hit like a black cloud came over the team. It's a crazy story. We had like a 3-headed monster back then. We had another running back, Rashawn Jackson. He had 1,000 yards. I had 1,000 yards. A fullback, Ricky Ross, great defense end. He had about 900, and the quarterback Ezra Burley had about 1,000 yards. So we had like a crazy and we probably averaged 40 points a game that year. And defense, I see somebody talking about defense. Our defense that year, I can't remember until the regional finals of giving up more than one touchdown that season in a game. So so we went into the regional finals 11-0. We played Annandale early in the year and beat them pretty good, beat them soundly. But the week before, the other running back comes up with the flu. He's out. I'm playing around in the locker room. I get a hip pointer. I can barely walk, but I'm determined to play. The first play of the game, the other running back, Ricky Ross, our best defensive end, I think he was defensive player of the year that year. He went down the first play of the game. So now you go from all these weapons to just the quarterback against Annandale, against Jimmy Milner. And Annandale was a good team. We just was a little better. But that day, that black cloud, and listen, talking about a city that was sad and sick, because everyone just knew we were going to win state that year, and we didn't, which was disappointing. But it's a part of it, right?
Yeah.
The best team on any given day. So.
Yeah. Well, how did it come to be that you ended up at Hargrave, which is a military academy, I believe, near Roanoke? But because I know that you had thought about playing basketball at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So explain that process.
So I, like a lot of kids, I was, maybe not doing as well in school. So I think my GPA, I had to maintain a certain GPA until the end of the year so I can qualify. And by the time I qualified, a lot of the football stuff was already gone, right? And a lot of people wanted me to come in. And back then we had Prop 48. So they wanted me to come and sit out a year. But I didn't think it was a good idea. And, I had, during the year, I had John Thompson come, Gary Williams come to recruit me, things and people and coaches like that. But I didn't have the grades. So, big schools that's the message for the kids out there. Big schools I don't care what you think you are, who you are, they're not going to wait. So that's why it's important to handle your business from your freshman year all the way through and qualify early and, things like that. So ended up, after the season, signing a scholarship with University of Maryland, Baltimore County to play basketball, which was still D1. It was a good program. But I remember that summer going over to the, I think it was the Kenner League that all the colleges playing at Georgetown, or I think it's the Kenner League at McDonough Arena. We go over and play. It's the Urban Coalition or the Kenner League.
It might have been Eddie Saw League.
Whatever league that is that the colleges come back and play. Yeah. So I can just remember walking on the court, right? And in high school, I was the guy. Like I was always one of the best players on the court, if not the best player on the court. So I'm walking on the court now. First of all, I'm the shortest player on the court. It's everybody. It's South Lakes everywhere, right? And I played and I competed a couple, during the summer, but I don't know. I just had a thought in my mind, like maybe I should have picked football, right? So we had the all-state football game, still to play. So I went down for the All-State football game and had a great week of practice. And I remember the coach of I think it was Mike Smith from Hampton. He stood up and asked, everybody, announce what school you're going to, and let everybody know. So I think I got up to say University of Maryland, Baltimore County for basketball. So everyone sort of looked like basketball. Okay. So after the practice, coach came up to me like, "Hey, Ratcliff, are your parents going to be at the game?" I was like, "Of course they're going to be at the game." He's like, "Do you mind if I talk to them about just about your future?" I was like, "Sure, no big deal." So went on to play the game. Later on that week, I ended up getting the defensive player of the game. We won the game, and I remember the coach talking to my dad after the game, and he was telling my dad, and I sort of was, listening. He was like, your son, I heard he's a pretty good basketball player, and and that's great, and they got a scholarship, but he should play football. If he plays football, he has a shot. He has a shot. So my dad's like, okay. He's like, well, if y'all think that's a good option, we have 2 prep schools that I can make a call and you can get in either one. So I'm like, okay. So he talked about Faulk, he talked about Hargrave. And so me and my dad ended up going and visit the next weekend, Faulk Union and Hargrave, right? And I just ended up picking Hargrave, right? Just ended up picking Hargrave. And so, rekindled my football career. And from there, it went on. Yep.
What was it like? What was it like going to school at Hargrave? And did you play basketball also there?
So, first of all, Hargrave and Faulk Union was military academies, right? So the structure and the discipline was something I probably wasn't used to. But I tell you what, it was great. It was great for me, probably great for any young man, right? Especially at 18, 19 years old. So a lot of structure, a lot of discipline, playing with great athletes from all across the country that came into the prep school, and we played a gauntlet for a schedule. We played against University of North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Marshall, all their JV teams. Some people didn't even know like Division I had JV teams. I didn't. I'm like, what? JV team? Yeah. So, and other prep schools we played against, like Georgia Military Academy, and we played against Faulk Union as well. So we played a gauntlet of a schedule against, great athletes, and it really it measured who you were as an athlete, because, again, that next step, everybody's good, right? In high school, you could sort of pick out the guys and tell the guys, but at Hargrave, you could see like, man, like everybody's all-state, everybody's, you know what I mean? So it was great. Basketball-wise, so funny story, basketball-wise, after football season, they wanted me to play basketball, right? So once your season is over, the schedule is after school, everyone lived right there on campus. After school, if you wasn't in activity, you go to military drill, like 3 or 4 times a week. Military drill, like uniform, marching, like the whole 9. It was the real deal. So I'm like, man, okay, I want to play basketball. Right? Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not playing basketball. I went down there. I did good in football. Got my signing days coming. I'm good. Get recruited over. I'm playing football, but I didn't want to do that military drill. So I would tell the coach, hey, I want to play. So I did practice with the team, but I never actually played in the game, right? Because I traveled with them a lot, but I never actually played the game because I was like, well, I'm sort of hesitant. I don't want to get hurt because of football. So I sort of played the system a little bit just to get out of that military drill. Make some great friends along the way.
You didn't miss playing basketball?
Well, I mean, yeah, but a basketball, you can go out and pick up a basketball and play a pickup game, but you can't with football, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I missed it because I played it all my life, but I was happy with football.
Yeah,
I was happy with football.
So you're in a long line of Virginia athletes, Alexandria athletes. that played at the University of Maryland. They always recruited well in Virginia and also in Northern Virginia. So why did you choose Maryland? And tell us a little bit about playing football for Maryland.
Well, funny thing, when I went back to school, when I went back to Hargrave, I had got recruited. I was already on the map. Like every school knew about me. So now this just propelled it more. So I got recruited by Florida State, Miami, UCLA, Notre Dame, like everybody, right? But guess what? I was, a kid coming from Alexandria, coming from I never traveled, never been anywhere. So you put me down, you take me out and put me down in the country somewhere in Hargrave. My only thought was, I want to go back home. So it didn't matter. So the only two real schools I had a chance was UVA and Maryland. I was going back home. I took those trips just for the experience to get on the plane and to visit those schools. But the only two teams that really had an opportunity was UVA, and growing up watching the ACC as well. So I wanted to play in the ACC. That was probably the biggest reason coming back home. Now I always, strong connection to family. My parents would get to see me play, come to my games and stuff like that. So those pretty much drove my decision.
And you played for Coach Duffner. What was he like? What was his coaching style?
Coach Duffner was a great coach, high strung, very passionate, very emotional, very rah-rah, very rah-rah-rah. You know what I mean? He had a great coaching staff. Coach Mel Foles, my linebacker coach. So I think both of those guys, Duffner and Foles, went on to coach in the NFL. And I saw both years down the line. Yeah, so it was a good experience. I had a lot of great teammates. Played with Jermaine Lewis, Chad Scott, Eric Abagu, that was the Under Armour guy. Played with Kevin Plank, the owner of Under Armour.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a lot of history at Maryland, a lot of great connections, a lot of good people. Had a good time. I wouldn't trade my time in there anything in the world. It was great.
Did it bother you that you'd won so much at TC Williams basketball and football? In Maryland, y'all were basically about a 500 team when you were there.
Yeah, so we never quite got over the hump at Maryland. It was like when I first got there, we had Scott Milanovich and Jermaine Lewis, so we had explosive offense, but we were real young on defense. And so as I got older, it flipped around. We were real good on defense, but not that good on offense. So we could never get it together. And the ACC was a gauntlet back then. You had a lot of future NFL stars that played in the ACC back then. So there was no easy wins. So we were like 6-5, 7-4 maybe, and we thought we was bowl eligible. We never got over that hump. So, but like I said, it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade that for the world.
How long did it take you to adjust to the ACC? Were you ready, since you had a year at Hargrave, to grow and mature and to learn more about the game and yourself? Were you ready right away, or did you take?
I think that year buffer for me was everything. It gave me a year to get more physically ready, more mentally ready. That discipline that Hargrave provided for me, I pretty much from day one walked into Maryland. I started every game of my career. I didn't. I know that it took some time to prove myself when I first got there on the depth chart. But once we laced them up and put on the shoulder pads, I started every game of my career.
Wow, that's awesome. What's your advice to parents and to young athletes who think about reclassifying, who think about going to prep school? There's a lot of people now that they're putting so much emphasis on athletics, and sometimes they do it for academics as well. That they're really taking those extra years, even gap years now, postgraduate years. Do you have any advice? Since it seemed like it worked really well for you to go through high school and then do a prep year.
Well, so here's the thing. I think everybody's journey is different, right? So I tell parents all the time, you got to do what's right for your kid and your family, right? Everybody's circumstance, situation is different, right? So for me, like you say, it worked out for me. It worked out for me, and more time, an extra year to grow mentally and physically, it wouldn't hurt anybody. But some kids don't need it. It just depends. It depends on if your college. What I do tell them is when they're picking their school, look at the situation that you're going into. Because I know kids that were deemed great athletes went into college situations and were buried in the depth chart and never really recovered. Right. So just pick the best situation for you. So and that's one of the things I do now. I help kids with the recruiting process and picking high schools and picking the right situation for them and helping them get into school and stuff like that. So that's one of my charges now that I do.
Well, what do you think about like kids nowadays? Like you went to the University of Maryland, you had to make it work. I mean, you could have transferred, but you would have lost a year. It was hard. Nowadays, kid may go somewhere, and as you just said, you might get buried in the depth chart. Next year, you go somewhere else. It's these kids. They don't have to. The decision is not as big nowadays because you make a decision that you don't like, you can easily change right away. How do you like that system, or do you think it's it hurts kids and also the program?
I would say it's a catch-22 because it's good that kids that won't have an opportunity somewhere can go somewhere else to have an opportunity, but it hurts in the aspect of working through adversity, right? Like this is my situation. I got to work hard and figure out how to make this work. Because I remember going to the University of Maryland, and I told this story a lot of times in my speeches. When I stepped on campus, the first football meeting, I was seventh string defensive end, seventh string, and I looked like they're like, okay, we broke up into the meetings and everybody go to the meeting room to your position. I'm like, I'm a linebacker. What? Now you going to the defensive ends. So right then, right, that would have been a perfect situation. Like I got recruited by all these schools, and I come here, y'all got me at defensive end. I could transfer. I could go to the transfer portal, but I had to make a decision right then that this is where they put me. I got to work through this. I got to figure it out. If I want to play linebacker, I got to figure out how to get back to linebacker. And that's exactly what I did. But when I first got to Maryland, I had my hand in the dirt. I've never in my life had my hand in the dirt, but I did, right? So the recruiting portal is it's a tricky situation. I think it helps some, but it hurts some as well. So
yeah. Well, it's here to stay now. It looks like, at least for a while. So you achieve almost any athlete's dream, definitely football player's dream. You made it into the NFL, and you end up going to the Indianapolis Colts. Describe the process of you getting to the Colts.
So my coming out of school, well, let me go back. My junior year, I was slated to go second or third round in the draft, but I didn't come out. I was like, the unknown. I didn't know what was next. The unknown. So I ended up staying. So 2 weeks before our first game of my senior year, my shoulder comes out. Right. So I was a classic story of sometimes you better get it while the getting's good. So draft day comes and I didn't get drafted. I was an undrafted free agent. But the crazy thing was after the draft, every single team called. Because they knew what the talent was, but whatever the situation ended up, like I said, I was born in North Carolina, ended up going back. I picked the Carolina Panthers. So for my first year, so on the practice squad, bounced on and off the roster, that type of situation. My rookie year with the Panthers, played with some great guys: Sam Mills, Michael Burrows, Lamar Lathan, Rocket Ismail, Curry, like phenomenal. Like being around those guys, playing with those guys. So after the season, they sent me to NFL Europe because I didn't play a lot that year, so sort of for practice, right? So went to NFL Europe, played for a team in Amsterdam, went over there for a couple months. So coming back, Bill Podium was the president of the team in Carolina then. So by the time we got back, Napoleon had left Carolina and went to Indianapolis. So to my surprise, he took myself and 10 other guys with him. So when I came back, I'm like, all right, Carolina, no, go to Indianapolis. And where's it? Where's that? Like I said, I like Indiana. So, you know, that's how I ended up with the Colts. And that was my first year in 98 with the Colts. And that was Peyton's first year. So we started off, you know, Peyton's first year was bad, but quickly turned around. So good.
What was it like to play with Marshall Faulk? Now, Marshall Faulk is a Hall of Famer, had a great career. He had a little problem with Indianapolis. I think there was a contract holdout, or he wasn't happy at the end, and he ended up moving on. But you got a whole year with him. What was he like?
Marshall, me and Marshall actually became good friends. I guess talent recognized talent. I don't know how that saying goes, but I was on not the practice squad. I was on the defense, the second string defense. He was on the first string offense. So we went against each other all the time, to the point of I was probably the only person on the team that could reasonably cover Marshall Faulk. So we always had like a great, you know, respect for each other. Marshall was he didn't look, if you look at him, he didn't look like a big, physical, strong football player. But when he put those shoulder pads on, he was smooth like a Cadillac, quick like a cat. Like it was amazing athlete. So that was my first year. We played together. And then I don't know, something with the contracts, controversy, he ended up getting traded to the Rams, and that's when we drafted Edgerrin James.
Edgerrin James. Before we get to Edgerrin James, who recently made it into the Hall of Fame as well, what about Jim Mora? Now, Jim Mora was a guy that just came to Indianapolis your first year. You know, he's known as a defensive coach. He liked the running game. He's kind of an old style coach. He's famous for that playoffs, the playoffs viral moment. What was Jim Mora like as a coach?
Coach Mora was a very intense guy, right? He was a no nonsense guy, get it done, handle your business type of guy. We got along great. You know, Coach pretty much named me the special teams captain pretty much every single game. He loved my effort. How I would run down on special teams and somebody need a break or get hurt, I would just pop in the game and wouldn't miss a beat. So, you know, yeah, he was a great coach. Very, like I said, very intense, very, you know, straight, direct to the point. He's not gonna sugarcoat anything. You know, if you messed up, he'll let you know you messed up. But if you did good, he'll let you know you did good as well. So, good coach, great guy.
Well, then you mentioned Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James, you know, he had some bling going on. He was a different type of character. He came in from Marshall Faulk, and I mean, from day one, when he arrived in Indianapolis, he was ready to go. He just had a wonderful run there.
Yeah, Edgerrin was, you know, a down south Miami guy, country guy, came with the gold teeth and the dreads. So definitely different. But Edgerrin came in and completed the big three. When Dallas had that big three of Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Indianapolis had that big three of Peyton Manning, Marvin Harris, and Edgerrin James. Yeah. So he completed that big three. And that chemistry, we could run the ball, but if you come up, we could go over top, we could complete the short. It was a perfect mix. But Edgerrin was a real athletic guy. That, like I say, he was a bigger Marshall Faulk, smooth guy, fast guy, but it was tough to bring down because he had such tremendous balance. Yeah, and you know, so it was great playing with those guys, great watching those guys, and you know, it was great.
How about Peyton Manning? Like Peyton Manning's had an excellent post football career doing advertisements. He showed like a real great, you know, personality, which. I don't know if you saw that side of him, but what was he like? You saw a very young Peyton Manning.
So the thing with Peyton is Peyton was a little different from the rest of us, right? We were young. We, you know, quote unquote, had money, wanted to hang out, wanted to party, wanted to do things. Peyton football all the time. If it wasn't about football, Peyton didn't want to have the conversation. But that's the type of leader that you need on a football team. I know just watching him grow from our rookie year. I mean, where our first year in Indianapolis together, his rookie year, he had 50 interceptions, and we were 3-13. Peyton, that offseason, went into the lab, watched film, got better. That next year, we went from 3-13 to 13-3 and winning our division. I think at that time, it was the biggest turnaround in NFL history. So just watching him and how he goes about the game, and we talked about the intellect of the game and the mental aspect of the game. He personifies that. Because if you watch football, Peyton doesn't have a Brett Favre cannon. He ain't got that. He doesn't have that, right? He doesn't have Tom Brady's accuracy. He doesn't have that. But guess what? Nobody knows where everybody's supposed to be and where to put the ball better than Peyton Manning. Nobody. He like the definition of throwing people open. Like if someone's covered, he puts the ball in a space that only the receiver can get there, throwing people open. He probably coined that term. So watching him was and watching how he used to come to the line and check with me and change the play. So if you're on the defense and you show what you're doing before the play start, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Yep. So it's great.
Well, you mentioned earlier that we all think football is glorious, and we probably idolize it, but the reality of it, it's a tough living. Why don't you give us like the life of a special teams player in the NFL, not one of these star players, a special teams player, you're working hard for your check. I mean, on a Sunday, you're going out there, you're getting beat up. Monday, Tuesday, you're recovering. Wednesday, back. What is the week of an NFL special teams player like?
So here's the thing. I played special teams, so I only played, how many plays that is a game. But I play all the special teams, so it was a fair amount of plays. And I subbed in and out on defense sometimes, but I wasn't even a full-time starter. So whatever I felt, a full-time starter, needless to say, a running back. Oh my God! So after the game on Sunday, it really literally feels like your body's been in a train wreck, right? So Monday, you crawl out of the bed. You gotta go in. You gotta maybe lift weights and watch film and watch the game, but you're still sore. You barely make it around. You got Tuesday off. Tuesday is a maintenance day. You better get a massage. You better hydrate up. You better get some rest. So you're not doing anything on Tuesday. So Wednesday, your next week of preparation, right? So you barely can get around, barely moving. Thursday, sort of the same thing. You're getting better. Maybe another set of weight training, something like that. By Friday, you're starting to feel better. You're starting to feel better for the next game. And Saturday walkthrough, you're good to go. And then train wreck again on Sunday. So you take that process and go through 8 weeks. So that's why you see a lot of players getting injured. A lot of teams, like the Cowboys started off hot. They beating everybody. Then all of a sudden, injuries mount up. People get sore. So it's tough, man. It's tough. So physically, and you have to be mentally tough as well, because your body will do what your mind tells it. So if you're not mentally tough, you might have the talent to be there, but if you're not mentally tough, you can't sustain. You can't sustain. So that's why you see the turnover rate in the NFL so big. Like, as you watch an NFL roster any given year, you'll see 5 to 6 big names on each team. Aaron Rodgers, the Adams, the running back, those guys, you'll see them. But everybody else, it's a revolving door. It's a revolving door. The average lifespan of NFL players is 3.5 years, if that, right? So, like I said, you see those guys that play for 10, 15 years, the Deion Sanders, the great ones, but everybody else, it rotates. Even here with our home team, right? If you ask, how many guys can you name on the Commanders right now? You know what I mean? Like, how many guys can you really name on the command? Like, back in the day, we had Joe Theismann, John Riggins, Russ Grimm. We knew the guys.
Yeah, we knew.
Different now.
Yeah.
It's different. And it's just because it's a business and the competitiveness of it. And, so it's a tough racket, man. It's a tough racket.
Is there a movie that captures what life is like as an NFL player? I mean, there's so many there's so many movies based on life in the NFL. Is there one that captures it relatively well?
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
Like Any Given Sunday
exaggerates.
And it's not even close. It's a movie. It's no, I mean, it's a movie. Like Remember the Titans, all those are like feel good movies, and it's acting. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like to actually be on the field and to see the athleticism, to see the speed and the power of other men. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
You got to have a front row seat to see it. I mean, and that's why people are they want to go. They want to see sports live. Yeah. They go like I love watching basketball. I love to go to Wizards game, NBA games, because to me it's like a beautiful dance, and you get a good athlete. I remember watching Dwayne Wade, right?
Yeah.
Imagine somebody just running around the court and you never hear they shoes squeak. Like you go into a gym, you hear quick, quick, squeak, squeak, squeak. Nah, you hear smooth to the hole, smooth jump shot, smooth,
yeah,
take off like a jet. Like the athletics. I think I was telling somebody the other day watching a basketball game. It was like watching a dance routine that people that really knew the game and you like appreciate the game and the movement of the game and guys that are very talented that make moves and get to the basket. It's amazing. It's amazing. Went off on a tangent.
Your last NFL game is an overtime playoff game, and it was you had two really good seasons in terms of your team had a really good record, but you never were able to get that playoff win. But your last game was an overtime loss, and I believe it was to
was it Miami?
Is Miami? Yeah. Do you remember your last game?
It had to be Miami. We had for some reason we had trouble with Miami, man. We like I think it was down there in Miami, and we had a good season, and we felt like we were gonna beat them. But I think I forgot the running back, maybe Lamar
Smith.
Lamar Smith,
mm-hmm.
Tough running guy, like that guy. I mean, but I think somebody might even have gotten hurt, and I was playing probably the whole second half in the overtime of the game. That dude was a bull, man. He was a bull. Hard to get down. I think they ended up being just by a field goal, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
It was 20-17.
Yeah. So I just remember it being a war, like any other game. Yeah. Like every time you step on the field, it's a battle, right? Like how when you're in high school, you got the easy school in your schedule, and that game, you're gonna crush them, and it's not gonna be that difficult. Mm-hmm. Ain't no easy. There are no easy games on your schedule. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yep. Yeah. That's what I remember from the last playoff game.
Well, let's talk about your transition to your post football careers. Why you decided to stop playing football, getting into coaching, and especially your nonprofit, which you try to help kids and get opportunities not only at high schools and colleges, but even at the professional level.
I guess my whole mindset has been as far as like coming back to the area and creating a nonprofit and helping out and coaching. Just has been like, I believe like my life through sports has been so blessed, and I'm afforded to live a great life, and for me not to give back, it would be the worst thing ever. I just want to help kids have the same opportunities I had when I was younger. And I know that a lot of great men were in my path that helped me along the way. So I'm just, trying to give back, and with the nonprofit, with the, working everything in football from recruiting to helping kids get to different places, whatever it may be, just trying to help out and do my part, and let them know that somebody that's actually been through the process, right? That understands the process is here to help, right? So I get calls from parents, from kids that already in college, that want to get to college, that want to pick a high school, that want to connect with a coach. And the Northern Virginia is great because back then we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all the social media. So when you built your name back then, you had to really build your name week in and week out. And so playing at one of the more popular high schools at TC Williams, I built a pretty good name. And another thing I always say is that my name is very unique. So it's hard to forget a Ratcliff Thomas, right? So I made a lot of great connections that spread out all over the DMV. And a lot of these guys are coaching, they're helping, they're giving back, youth league to high schools. So we're just here connecting the dots and making sure if a kid, wants an opportunity, is there for them, just trying to help out, just trying to help them figure it out, trying to help figure out what's the best path. Like I said, everyone's path is unique, right? What's good for me might not be good for you, right? If he's playing this position, maybe he should be playing that position. So we just try to help out, the best we can, and help kids, live out their dreams and get to the next level.
So, Ratcliff, what is your nonprofit called, and how do people get in touch with you, and what's the website and those kind of things?
So my nonprofit is the Ratcliff Thomas Foundation, which is www.ratcliffthomasfoundation.org. Our nonprofit is it's sort of been dormant with the COVID and everything. So the nonprofit was based in a mentoring program. So our concept was mentoring through sports. And over the years, we've done a lot of great things, helped a lot of kids, helped a lot of families. We've done everything from back to school, coat drives, haircuts, giveaways, turkey basket giveaways, on to doing sports camps, football camps, basketball camps, and stuff like that. So here recently, we've sort of transitioned over to mainly in the football realm of helping in football. So we have a showcase coming up, a middle school showcase. And the middle school showcase is going to be in April. And what we're doing is the middle school showcase is rising 7th, 8th, 9th, and current 9th graders, right? They're going to come and do a combine type workout, but we're going to have all the high schools come. The DeMathas, the St. Francis, the Bishop Iretons, the Freedoms, the Stonebridge, like all the high schools are coming. So it's bringing the who's who of football in the area. And we're trying to make this event an annual event because, one issue I have with a lot of coaches, especially the public school coaches, the private schools are taking all our kids. Okay, well, let's put this event together, and then it's going to give kids an opportunity to choose where they want to go. It's like we talked about earlier. It's not like I'm at Charles Houston, I'm at GW, I'm at TC Williams. It's not that anymore, right? It's kids traveling, going to high schools in different areas, going to private schools. It could be best fit. So if you got one good kid that gets pulled and goes to St. John's, right? It gives the other kid behind him the opportunity to shine right there at the high school locally. So it helps out everybody, right? And it gives the parents the opportunity to meet the coaches, shake their hand, look them in the face. Like they might not even they trying to connect with certain coaches. They might never can connect with them. Now it's the opportunity to connect with them, and so we got kids in all kinds of situations. I just got a call yesterday. One of my kids are down there. He's actually in Faulk Union. the school Fork Union, not prep school, the school Fork Union. He wants to come back.
Mm.
So they put in the application to St. Francis, right? So St. Francis, my guy, Massa, he went to University of Maryland with me. So I'm going to pick up the call and say, hey, buddy, we got one coming your way.
Oh, that's great.
He could do X, Y, Z, and make that connection. However we can help, however we connect people, that's what we're here to do. And we feel good about doing it.
Well, that's awesome. I look forward to supporting you and your foundation. One last question. And since you're in the business of helping kids and to helping athletes realize their dreams, if you had to give a young Ratcliff Thomas one piece of advice, one thing he could have done a little bit differently, all you've been through, not only with your own career, but also counseling other athletes, what piece of advice would you like to have had when you were coming into high school and you were becoming a star athlete?
The young Ratcliff, the advice that I would give him is connect the dots sooner, right? Don't wait, right? Don't be focused on your craft, but always see the big picture. A lot of times us as athletes, we get tunnel vision, and it's good to be on your path to work towards your goals, but see the big picture. Don't close off. Because my thing was, if you wasn't talking about football or something like that, I was a nice guy, respectful guy, but I didn't have much conversation. Open up, because you never know what opportunity might present itself. You know what I mean? Always be open, help people. Always, if someone needs help, when you help people, people help you.
Yeah.
When you connect with people, you never know what the next step is. So when you're young, all you can see is, am I going to college? Am I going to pro? It's all about you. So it's like, take your time, step back, right? Be more giving, and think about, more than just yourself. Like help connect, like use your connections, like start connecting earlier, right? My network now is huge. It's huge. But to be honest with you, everybody knows me in this area, knows me, but I didn't know a lot of people until later on down the line. Just imagine if at TC at Maryland, I would open up then, right? How stronger and more powerful my connections are I could have had. So to just connect the dots earlier, see the big picture, stay focused on your goals and stay on your path. Because when you stay on your path as a young athlete, it keeps you away from the nonsense. Like if you're on your path and you're working towards something, you're less likely to go over here and do this or go over here and try that. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the things that I did do a good job of, staying on my path. So yeah, again, it's great. Real quick, I saw a thread in our group talking about Damone Boone, and Damone he was at West Springfield, 500 yards in one game, crazy. And Coach Panini, right? Coach Panini was talking about one of the best athletes he's ever seen. So with that being said, Damone came to Maryland. He came to Maryland. I think it was going into my junior year, right? And what people have to understand is, just because you have success at one level, you have to keep working. Because everybody has success at that level. Now it's time to go to that next level, and then the next level. So kids that have success early, keep working. Keep working, because guess what? Some kids are more naturally athletic than others. Some got to work harder. If you don't have a combination of both, it's going to be tough. You have to work hard. You have to work hard. And shout out to Damone. I haven't talked to him in a while. If you're out there, bro, You know, like I said, I was excited when I heard he signed with Maryland. He was coming on, one of our local guys coming on to school with us. You know, I was excited to hear he was coming. So reach out, bro, if you out there. So
I have to say that's a great piece of advice. I would always say that we take sometimes success for granted, and success can be fleeting. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a success in anything, not just sports, but anything, is to take it for granted and think it's always going to be there. You always got to keep working. So look, man, I appreciate what you do. I always had a lot of respect for the way you played basketball and football as well. I knew you were a great player. I didn't see you play. I think I saw you play football once, like a highlight, but I saw you play basketball many times. Coached you, lucky enough to coach you that one All-Star game. I think Burns might have been on that same team. I think you were a young guy when I coached you, but I'm not sure. But man, this has been great. I think you have a lot of great advice for the athletes and also the parents out there. So I look forward to keeping in touch and maybe get you on a future podcast with G Dubbington and Darryl Franklin. Get those guards, maybe even Joey Beard, to get those guys back together again.
That'd be great that you reunite with those guys. And just wanted to say that, you know, I'm doing my spring speaking tours open up. So if any organizations out there needs a motivation speaker to come in, I'm more than happy to do so. And again, our middle school showcase, which is going to be an annual event. Everyone listen to me. This is going to be huge. Everyone's going to be talking about this. The annual middle school showcase. This is going to be the first one. It's going to be in April, and it's going to be the who's who of football. It's going to be like I want to make the event so as us as coaches, as the leaders of these young men, that we compete against each other, but I want us all on the same page because we all have the same vision of helping these kids to achieve their dreams. So I think it's going to be great, and you know, yeah.
It sounds like a great idea. Maybe help kids get opportunities at a younger age. They're not really stuck wherever they are. They may get exposure to ideas that they may not get otherwise. So, but anyway, Ratcliff, look, this has been great, man. And let's keep in touch and let's do more work together.
Julian, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it, man. You know, the platform. This is a great show. I watch it all the time, and all these, you know, great legends that you have up here, man. It's amazing, and listening to the stories and the recap their careers, man. It's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and you definitely belong amongst those legends. So I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Ratcliff, have a great day, buddy.
All right.
Okay, man.